And I was surprised that people from Saudi Arabia actually go to England to study. And they said they do go to study, and their government actually pays full scholarships to send them. The only way they study abroad is actually they have to take some male member with them, either a brother or a husband. So if Kashmiri parents are so worried, why don't they just send a brother or a husband, or the father goes along?
This independence is also about creating the dignity of labor right from the day one. Our children, even after graduating from college and university, dependent on parents. Where comes this attitude from? Who breeds it? Who cultivates it?
I travel all by myself most of the time. But again, she was here, oh, are you going to be safe? Are you going to be fine? So parents will always worry about you. My parents didn't send me to Pune because they thought the reason I wanted to go to Pune was because I wanted to go to Bollywood in Mumbai, and Pune was very close.
Yeah.
They didn't, I was a topper in school, but they didn't understand that I was academically oriented. They were like, oh, ye to haath se nikal gayi hai, ye to Mumbai chali jayegi, ye to actress ban jayegi.
The way success is being measured and the way success is being told is all about these internal tests where you have accumulation of scores without any learning, I can assure you that.
Today we have in our studio two very, very brilliant minds, brilliant and beautiful, who have in their lives accomplished so many things in their academic career, in their professional lives. They have achieved much, and this is the time for them to sort of come back and share their experiences in our own educational spaces. We'll have this discussion with them to know what kind of impact they want to make in this space and how do they want to connect our own students in our schools and colleges to the global spaces. Both of them I'll introduce. One, Farooq Wasil. Dr. Farooq is an educationist of a global repute who has been outside, worked almost 4 decades outside, and now he's back. And we have with us a beautiful mind, Dr. Tanzila Mukhtar. She is a scientist. I'll ask them more about their own lives and their own academic achievements later. But for now, thank you for coming to our studio, both. If I can start with Dr. Farooq Wasil. Dr. Sir, what made you come back?
It's called a moment of reckoning. Thank you for inviting me, Mount Saab. It's always a pleasure to.
And how do you explain that?
So, moment of reckoning is, I think, I always believe that at the end of the day, there's a purpose for life. And some people realize it in their lifetime. Some people don't get to see it, even when they have the resources, they have the ability and the skill sets, they don't make the impact. So I remain grateful to Almighty that for having created that awareness in me, that whatever little is left of me, that I can contribute and help our people and children to really grow in an environment where they make sense to in this global world and find their legitimate position and placement. That's what really is the uppermost thought in my mind, and I've been grateful to people who provided that kind of confidence to me that we can do and work together. And so far my experience are very beautiful. There are very beautiful people around who genuinely want to really work hard, and they give their time, money and effort, which is very, very significant. Sometimes we don't get to see them, but they're real assets in the society. They're the people who are change makers.
Tanzila, if I can ask you, at this age, at such a young age, you have achieved so much in your academic career. At this very stage, what connects you back to this space?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, Mahmood Saab, for inviting me and also sharing the space with Farooq Saab. First of all, I wanted to say, when you said beautiful and brilliant, I thought you were referring beautiful for Farooq Saab and brilliant for me, because he's very beautiful.
No, I in fact use both things for both of you.
Thank you.
So, Kashmir is home, right? I like to return back to my roots. But recently I've started working with Kashmir Care Foundation, and we have a lot of initiatives going on. So even if while I'm visiting family during holidays, I also like to connect back here because of Kashmir Care Foundation. I like to meet like some schools here and some principals just out of outreach to see that what's going on, kind of to build a framework for Kashmir Care Foundation as well.
Just for our own viewers, these are two organizations which in recent years have come up to influence this school space, to actually widen the horizons of our students in terms of where they can go and what they can do. One is ThinkSight, ThinkSight is a Srinagar-based organization, and another is this initiative, Kashmir Care Foundation. In our earlier discussion also we talked about it. We'll talk about it more, and I'll ask questions about these two initiatives to Dr. Farouk Wasil and Tanzila Mukhtar. But for now, Tanzila, can you tell us about your own journey as a student?
Yes, so I studied until class 10th in Malamson, and 11th, 12th I did PCB, Physics, Chemistry, Biology from Greater Noida, Delhi NCR. Undergrad, I studied biotechnology, chemistry, botany from University of Bangalore, Mount Carmel College, Bangalore. It's an all-women's college. For my masters, I was on HSBC Chevening scholarship. Actually, only 2 people that year got the scholarship. I was one of them.
It was which year?
It was okay. Now that tells everyone how old I am.
How young you are.
Okay, how young I am. I am young. So that was 2010, 2011. The other person who got the scholarship was an IAS officer, so I was very humbled by that. So I studied stem cell and regenerative medicine in University of Sheffield, Department of Biomedical Science. And I came back, worked in Institute for Regeneration Medicine in STEM, National Center for Biological Sciences, for almost a year, did an internship. Because internships are really important also if you want to work in research. And then I did my PhD in University of Basel in Switzerland. I was a Swiss government excellence scholar. Again, I was on my scholarship. I then went to do my postdoctoral training in University of California, San Francisco, where I am right now. So I'm a neurobiologist by training.
Right now, so great. Dr. Saab, if I can, taking a cue from Tanzila, any brilliant student here, brilliant in commerce, we'll ask the question that why you didn't appear in NEET, why you didn't do medicine. So that's our usual response to such students. As an educator, how do you evaluate this trend that all our brilliant students in science should apply for NEET? If they don't make it, they frustrate themselves, and then the onwards journey for excellence, it goes haywire. Why is it so, and what kind of mentoring our students need?
The problem is, how do we define brilliance first? They say race for excellence has no finish line. Learning is continuous. You have to evolve over a period of time. Brilliance will be when you do something very outstanding. You compete against the best. So therefore, the benchmark here is set NEET examination. And then our system of evaluation and assessment is so faulty. A 94% can easily walk into successful cohort. 93% can be back to not making it. So this is a very bad way of even categorizing performance around. Early orientation. What's education all about? Education is a preparation for life. And if education is a preparation for life, then all life has to be education oriented. All education has to be life oriented. So what is the connection of this schooling with life today? When she was talking about internship is what? It's a simulation. It's an experience. Where are those experiences in the school ecosystem? So we have to question, unfortunately, what's happening. The way success is being measured and the way success is being told is all about these internal tests where you have accumulation of scores without any learning, I can assure you that. And unfortunately, the educators must become a little more bold. See, the problem is it's a conditioned mindset. One, they have a sense of insecurity of experimenting, new thought process, new practices. Okay, they also have a self-doubt whether we have the skill set, but what's education? It's continuous. Nothing is complete. As of now, I'll say, take Tanzila for that matter. The journey hasn't been easy. Look at the kind of institutions she has been. Was it easier journey? And here is a group. See, I always believe that you need to have role models to explain children what success looks like. And this is an opportunity. It is what success for me is.
Tanzila, if I can take you back that very moment when you decided that you're going to approach a different path, you will not waste your time with this medicine and the entrance test for it. What was the response in the family and among the friends and your own within? What was the thought process that time?
So I'm very driven. From the beginning, I was very driven. So, of course, my dad especially and my mom kind of supported, but then she also did not know much about the field. So she was like, okay, whatever you want to do is fine. My dad wanted me for quite some time, he wanted me to do medicine. After that, Shah Faisal became an IAS officer, and then he wanted me to become a bureaucrat because he thought I had the aptitude. The reason why I went to Bangalore, you were asking me earlier.
Yeah.
Earlier, my choice was to go to Ferguson College, Pune, because biotechnology is very good in Pune University. But my parents didn't send me to Pune because they thought the reason why I wanted to go to Pune was because I wanted to go to Bollywood in Mumbai, and Pune was very close. They didn't. I was a topper in school, but they didn't understand that I was academically oriented. They were like, "Oh, ये तो हाथ से निकल गई है, ये तो मुंबई चली जाएगी, ये तो actress बन जाएगी." So, that's why I was sent to Bangalore to an all-women's college. So there were resistances, but then you have to overcome those. And at the end, in my opinion, you always need a good cop and a bad cop in your life. Good cop will always promote and encourage you. A bad cop helps you because you need that negative energy, right? Because you have to prove them wrong.
Right.
And you always get that in life.
Herein you brought another element into our discussion, which is very important for us. We are very comfortable with sending boys outside.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to girls, we have apprehensions. We somehow feel that there is a sense of insecurity, vulnerability. How did you feel about that?
I mean, of course,
it came your way, or how did you deal with it?
Of course, my parents thought that there is, it's not going to be safe. In fact, when I was coming here, my mom was also reluctant today because I live in San Francisco. I travel all by myself most of the time. But again, she was here, "Oh, are you going to be safe? Are you going to be fine?" So parents will always worry about you. It's for you to be able to convince your family that, what is important. Your career is important. You have aspirations. You want to be financially independent in future. You don't want to be dependent. This is your one life. You want to make an impact. And I think I did draw that point across to my family at that point.
Now that you have this experience, you've experienced it enough for these many years. If you will have to tell a child, a girl, in school right now here in Kashmir, that there is a future ahead, it's not just here you can perform, there is a world to explore. So how will you make her confident about the choice, and how will you orient her or mentor her that this is the way that you talk to your parents and the teachers and all those in the family who might have these fears of a girl going outside? So what will be those one or 2 points wherein you will tell her that you focus here, and this is the way that you can convince the world that you are going there to perform in academics, and you have that thing in you, and there are all these apprehensions and all these vulnerabilities are actually products of your own imagination and the way you conceive the outside world. Otherwise the world is different than what we perceive it from here. What will be those couple of things?
I'll give you one example. The first time when I was abroad was for my master's in England, and I had several batchmates who came from Saudi Arabia. And I was surprised that people from Saudi Arabia actually go to England to study. And they said they do go to study, and their government actually pays full scholarships to send them. The only way they study abroad is actually they have to take some male member with them, either a brother or a husband. So if Kashmiri parents are so worried, why don't they just send a brother or a husband, or the father goes along? And if that is not possible, I would maybe tell the parents that they should trust their child so much, and they should actually make her so strong that the child should be independent enough to take care of herself. Like, for example, I was, my dad did not hold my hand at every step, but he utna kabil banao apne bachcho ko that you are able to trust them. They can face every up and down in their life. So I think that is very important. And I think when we talk about this career and everything, we have to bring the parents also with us, and we have to explain to them and to counsel them. Our kids will only be able to compete with kids outside once we show them the opportunities outside.
Exactly. Dr. Farooq, I'll come to you on this now, and I'll connect it with your own initiative, ThinkSide. Now you have been working in that for that initiative almost 3 years now. You have been to different schools. I personally know the kind of activities that you have conducted there. You often talk about this mentoring. You often talk about this exposing children at an early age to these trends that in any case in future they'll have to face it. But let's prepare them earlier. What kind of things at ThinkSide you contemplate of doing or you have done in this regard?
See, ThinkSide, if you look at it, we are insisting and emphatically bringing it back to the focal point about schools is skill development and confidence, parenting. In fact, what Tanzila said, we need to really engage parents on how to build this confidence from early years. This cannot happen in vacuum. She has been one fortunate child where parents were, they could at least get convinced towards that. There are parents who are very educated but don't get convinced. So parenting is a shared art. Parenting is not something which can happen by default. And in this age and time, if you simply bank on information, which most of the schools do, you can have mushroom number of graduates not industry ready. You look at the employment ratios we have with outside world where there are opportunities for the kids. Why they are not getting employed? One, this independence is also about creating the dignity of labor right from the day one. Our children, even after graduating from college and university, is dependent on parents. Where comes this attitude from? Who breeds it? Who cultivates it?
So your own, if I can interject here, your own experience here for all these 3 years, because you have lots of experience outside. If you compare the two, what is the level of reception in our schools to new ideas, to outside intervention, to experience coming from outside, so that children can be exposed? What do I need to ask, rather than playing sort of a blame game, telling that our schools are not ready for this? What are those things that we need to convince them, to open up their minds? So that, because primarily schools are also concerned about their students, it is just that they don't know about it. One, what has been the level of reception, and where do you find other impediments?
See, across the country, if you look at the schools, they have been modeled what you call training of normal. The bright students do very well for themselves, the weaker ones are left behind. But that's not what education is all about. It's about equity. Every child has a right to good education. Now, the good education gets defined in different pockets differently by the people, because you see, there's so much of mess around when you try to analyze the data. I have a very clear indication that we don't have those skill sets currently available with most of the majority of the teachers. Let us say digital journey of schools. We don't have any digital story of school when you talk with them. Digital story is about having computer lab, having some devices in, but what happens inside? How is technology being embedded into teaching learning process? How is this technology being involved into bringing the relationships? Because it's a very potential medium of developing relationships. You need not to be physically there. So schools need to really, one, they must go through the audit process. I'm a big believer that unless you don't have a reflection of yourself.
I'll come back to you, because I've often seen you emphasize on this point that our schools need to go through an audit process, review their own performance, review their structures and processes, and then map where the gaps are, and then how to prepare for the future. I'll come back to that. But before that, Tanzila, this initiative, Kashmir Care Foundation, tell us something about it.
So this is, actually, you have my Dr. Altaf last.
Yeah, we had an interaction with him also, but I want to know it from you, because you have younger people have their own way of looking at it. We are now the older generation, so younger people have their own way to look at it, and maybe they have some unique way of telling us how did they connect to this Kashmir Care Foundation.
So Kashmir Care Foundation, also the Kashmir Global Connect. So this is an organization that actually started with Dr. Lal's vision. But somehow he has assembled a team of people who also share that vision. And it's so dynamic, because every time we meet, we all feel like, we are his leaders, but also the mission commanders, I would say. We all have different expertise, but we complement each other as well. Though it started with an idea of dissemination of information about through different sessions. It will be, first session was about aerospace engineering. On October 27th, 10:30 Indian Standard Time, we will have a session about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we have amazing panelists, and the moderator is going to be from Kashmir, KEI actually, Education Initiative. And then we'll have more sessions about diverse fields as well. And slowly we are going to venture into mentoring students, so that students can also start shadowing doctors, maybe shadowing different professions. kind of open opportunities where they can do some sort of internships, look into like, how are the different professions, they can put things on their CVs. When we have mentorships, we can make like groups of people based on our expertise. For example, I'm a neurobiologist, people who are all the students who are across different districts who are interested in biology, biomedical science, something that actually is my expertise, they can talk to me like maybe twice per month. I can send them reviews, we can discuss things just to make them more focused what they want to do. So it's about their own personality development, make them more outspoken. We have sessions about critical thinking. We have sessions where we can tell them how to do creative writing, because that is something we miss. When I was a PhD student and I wrote my first abstract, my British professor told me, remove your Indian poeticism out of this abstract.
Exactly.
So we need to work on those things as well. Yeah.
That is, I think, our children work very hard, but just that they don't know where to use, what are the special requirements of each field. Yes. They don't know about it. I also want to know your impressions about it. When I discussed this idea of collaboration with Dr. Altaf Lal about, Kashmir Care Foundation or the Global Connect coming to this space, now an organization like ThinkSight, already now here for 3 years and gone to different schools and associations and met many people. He was quite excited about it, that if we have these collaborations, it can amplify our own efforts.
Absolutely.
Your own idea, you have worked in a space where I think students have a fair idea of collaboration, working with others, which is missing in our schools. When you find these two organizations come closer, how is it going to benefit our students and how is it going to benefit both of the initiatives?
See, my opinion about a progressive growth is always to start from ground up. And I think that's what ThinkSight is doing, actually. If you want to accelerate something, you want to look at the root of everything. And that's what you have made that impact already here. So even if we are doing sessions and everything, but through ThinkSight, we can reach out to a bigger pool of students. So even if we are trying to make a framework with, say, certain number of schools, but we can leverage the network that ThinkSight has already made, and we can actually maybe use the infrastructure that you already have in place as well, and use a collective effort from both the institutions, both the organizations can have collective effort, and we can expand in different directions, right? One thing is mentoring, or one thing is we have sessions and you have a bigger reach than us. So one thing that we have been floating around is, say, adopting a village. So a far from area where the schools don't have a projector system. So thinking of installing a projector system, even if we are able to install one, so that they can have access to that and students can actually be mentored directly. That is one idea we can have,
But it can have a great impact.
It will have a great impact, right?
Dr. Saab, I know because I've had many discussions with you on this, you are a great fan of collaboration and networking. When the two organizations come, together in this initiative, and there are, I think, on the peripheries more such organizations which can actually network and give it an impact. How do you see it?
You see, I think that the future of any organization or initiative is in the relationships they build. Learning is a relationship-based enterprise. Now, when we talk to Dr. Lal, the thinking is right around. This awareness needs to come, and also experience needs to come. So experience not in the books. Experience is a grand master. It's with the people. So when children have direct interface with this experience, it's easy to internalize, because children go through a lot of turbulence at a stage where they have to make career choices. It's not an informed choice. Here it is by default, then by design. They blindly pursue their course interests without knowing, then discovering later it wasn't me, it wasn't meant for me. But you can't reverse the clock. You have to look ahead, and what happens then, the plateau comes, they get stuck there, and we lose some of the beautiful minds there. So schools have this religious responsibility of tracking these kids, at least from grade 8, I say, if not earlier. Grade 8 to grade 12, you keep tracking them. You must have collaborative evidence to prove this is where his dominant interest is, this is where he will make success stories. One. Second thing for us, ThinkSight and Kashmir Care Initiative coming together, because the purpose is same. If you look at our vision, our values, we share the common ground. So we don't have a kind of an irritating.
For our viewers, if you can tell us what is that purpose?
Okay, the purpose is from ThinkSight and Kashmir Care, making thinking visible. It's absence of thinking today with lot of expertise but no thinking around. You see, ultimately what is learning? Learning is that you apply yourself in the circumstance situations which are very unknown, where you can test your own learning. If that's not happening, then there's no evidence I have learned. And I also want to see, like we have many organizations, that we are, collaborating with them. We need to create a larger collaborative network so that, where the impact is being done, but it's a very small impact. Collectively, we are in force. We will have a better impact, and it's a metacognition. See, collectively, what will happen? When we say, okay, we have done this collectively and it's not making sense, we still have a collective drawing room and boardroom available to us. We can lay the canvas and rewriting our programs, rethinking our action plans. This is what will make silos. You see, problems. I have to come out of this silo culture. In this age of information anxiety, it's not about what you know. It is how do you know it, and how you know that you know it.
Those are very, these are the questions that we need to answer, but preparing our schools and those who run it for these kind of questions, initially it gives a fright when you ask me anything, because it is a question that I have to address myself, my own competence and my own way of doing things. Therein, sometimes your own ego comes in, your own, incapability, you want to hide it. So how, as an educator, how do we approach a person who we know that this man has a gap in learning, without offending him, without giving him a sense of inadequacy, or without giving him a sense that he doesn't know the things, but approach him in a very beautiful manner so that he opens up.
In a Cambridge, we used to have a program called Critical Friend. A critical friend is one who never gives you a feeling that I know it more than you know it. He's a side by your side, a guide by the side in a way, but he's someone who has a developmental approach. You see, you have to understand the adult learner. This andragogy, adults have a fear of failure. He has an ego also. It's hard to work with adults. It's easy to work with kids. So you have to, without offending, you have to show them through your acts of omission and commission, through your practical experiences, that it's so easy to do it. See, you have to remove the layers of adult fear of learning.
If I can take it forward, Tanzila, you are a scientist. Mm-hmm. Science, when it comes to facts, is merciless. It can't make any compromise. As a scientist, how do you see that where is our education in science in our schools going? One is that it's a trend that our students must opt for science subjects. That is a societal trend. But that scientific temperament, that scientific attitude, that science as something which becomes my passion, and then I do it the way it needs to be done. Do you find it in our schools?
So let me actually compliment what Farooq Sahab just said. So when he said that, for children, adults actually, they have their ego and they are insecure and they don't want to learn. I am a neurobiologist, so stem cells actually are very plastic. So they can learn, unlearn, things. So children are like that, So if they fail, it's a milestone. So if we take failures as milestones, so that should not be a problem. They can always learn. So what has the most value these days is data. So if a school is able to assess and record data, say if there's student A and they're able to record the student A's trajectory, that how the student A is behaving and are able to groom that student, is good at sports. Okay, groom that person to be a sports person. Maybe that can bring us an Olympic medal, or groom that person to be a scientist. Now coming back to how the scientific education is. I don't know the current scientific education, because depending on how many scientists are coming out of Kashmir, not as many as American scientists. So it doesn't seem like it's so much awareness.
No much.
But when I studied as well, so even in my undergrad, the way we were taught science, and when I went to do my master's in Sheffield in England, all the Indian students did not do well because we never read a single scientific paper. So we never read a scientific review, nothing. We had no exposure. We never knew, we just read from the books. We just read from whatever notes teachers had given us. So I think that has to change as well. We have to get the students in a habit of reading scientific papers. Try to tell them, oh, this is how the reviews are read. This is how the
But I think this is completely missing in our, not just in our schools. If you go to the colleges, I think the situation is even worse.
Yes.
The academic papers, the scientific papers, and the original papers. Where do we make those interventions? Now that you are back, you want to contribute. Where would you like to start from? Getting the student. Let's imagine that we have an event where we get students from different schools. How would we approach those students so that they build this temperament?
So, for example, if I am mentoring the students and I want to tell them about neurobiology, I am going to send them reviews from my field or some general reviews about, say, biomedical science or human, induced pluripotent stem cells. Try to tell them that where we are in the field. Maybe gene therapy, where we are in the field, so that they know how to read a paper. It's like scientific writing is very different than, like, say, a newspaper or an article. So they need to understand this is what has to be, right. Undergrads should kind of group together and start writing a review. There has to be like groups where they have a journal club, because in journal club what you do is you pick a paper, you discuss the paper. That will develop your critical thinking. I have high school students who I mentor actually in my lab, and I give them review papers. I give them articles to read, and they read and they come back to me and they tell me, this I didn't understand, this I understood, can you explain this to me? If they can do it, of course students here can do it as well. So this is something that has to be incorporated in their studies right now, in their training.
Okay. As we come to the conclusion of this interaction, I know viewers, you'll find me absolutely bang on when I said that these are two beautiful and brilliant minds. These are the two beautiful thoughts that we need to track our students, we need to have data with us, and we need to build scientific temperament in our students. Expand their horizons, and these two organizations, ThinkSight Services Private Limited and Kashmir Care Foundation, both are actually targeting that. We wish them both luck. Thank you for coming to our students.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much.
That was very gracious.
Thank you.